On Ilum, every Jedi faced the same trial. Enter the crystal caves, find the Kyber crystal meant for you, and forge your first lightsaber. Most younglings emerged with blue or green, the colors of tradition. But what if Anakin Skywalker's crystal had been different? What if, instead of blue, he found a rare black shard hidden in the ice, the kind of crystal most Jedi only knew from whispers and old archives? In this version of the story, that is exactly what happens, and nothing turns out the same. Let's begin. He was not just another Padawan, he was the chosen one, the boy the council argued about like he was a theory instead of a person. He learned fast, too fast sometimes, like the Force had been waiting for him. And after only a short stretch of training under Obi Wan Kenobi, the day came for Ilum, the rite every Jedi remembered for the rest of their life. Because it was the day you learned whether the Force would meet you halfway. Anakin pulls his cloak tighter as the cold bites through fabric like it wants to test him too. Ilum is not friendly. It is beautiful in the way a glacier is beautiful, silent, ancient, and completely uninterested in your confidence. The temple above the caves stands like proof the Jedi once built things meant to last, and the caves below it are the opposite, a living maze that shifts around your doubt. Obi-Wan watches him at the mouth of the cavern, trying to keep his face calm. He gives Anakin a small nod, the kind that says, "You can do this, even if your stomach is doing flips." Anakin nods back, but inside he is buzzing. He wants the crystal, not only for the weapon but for the certainty. If the Force chooses him the way it chooses everyone else, then maybe the whispers stop. He steps into the darkness. At first, the cave feels like a glittering lie. The frozen walls shimmer with points of light that look like crystals if you squint. And then you get closer and realize it is just ice playing tricks. Anakin walks until time stops making sense, turning corners, doubling back, hearing his own breath echo like another presence keeping pace behind him. The Force is there, but it is quiet. And that quiet irritates him because Anakin has never been good at waiting. Then he hits a junction and stops. He sits down in the snow dust and forces himself to breathe slow. He lets the cold exist without fighting it. He pushes the deadline out of his head. He reaches for something steadier than panic, steadier than pride. When his mind finally stills, he reaches into the Force again, softer this time, like he is listening instead of grabbing. A breeze touches the back of his neck. Not the random draft of an ice cave, a deliberate tap, like something trying to guide him without words. Anakin opens his eyes and turns. The air is flowing from behind him, urging him down a path that looks wrong. It is darker than the others, emptier, like it has been avoided on purpose. It feels like a secret that stayed sealed until he arrived. Anakin hesitates. This is the moment doubt tries to take control. Maybe the Jedi never intended for anyone to go down there. Maybe it is empty because it is dangerous. Maybe the Force is misguiding him. Maybe this is how he proves every cautious master right. Then he thinks of Qui-Gon, not as a lesson, as a voice. Trust the Force, trust the living current, not the fear people wrap around it. Anakin takes one long breath and steps forward. The darkness swallows him fast. The light from the junction fades until he is half blind, feeling his way through narrow passages where the walls are slick and cold. His heartbeat gets loud. His thoughts get sharp. He turns around once, and the route behind him looks dimmer than it should, like the cave is rearranging itself around his uncertainty. His legs shake. He wants to run, and the fact that he wants to run makes him angry at himself. So he does the only thing he knows. He shouts. The sound cracks through the ice and rattles the walls. Then silence answers him, and that silence is worse than any voice. Anakin forces his breathing back under control. He does not pretend fear is gone. He just refuses to let it steer. He names the doubts for what they are, thoughts feeding on a boy who believes he has to earn his right to exist. He takes a step, then another, and something catches his eye at the far end of the corridor, a faint glimmer that is not sparkle or reflection, more like presence. Anakin moves toward it, and there, resting on a jagged rise of stone, is a Kyber crystal. It is the color of pure ink. Small, smooth, about the size of a Republic credit. Instead of shining, it seems to drink the light around it. The air feels heavier near it, not dark side heavy, more like gravity. The cave goes quiet in a different way, like it is waiting to see what he does next. Anakin reaches out. The moment his fingers touch the crystal, the world snaps. For a heartbeat, he sees himself older, taller, swallowed in black armor, breathing like a machine. The image hits so hard his stomach drops. He jerks back, but the vision keeps moving. Fire in the sky above Coruscant. clones in formation, Jedi falling, a black-bladed weapon flashing through smoke, not red, not blue, something that looks like night given an edge. It is not one future. It is a hallway of futures, and one of them feels like it is staring back at him. Then he is back in the corridor. The crystal is in his hand, cold and steady. Anakin's chest rises and falls fast, like he has been running. He does not understand what the Force just showed him. He only knows the crystal chose him, and the Force does not hand you a choice like that for fun. He finds his way out of the caves without the same fear. The path opens like it is done testing him. When he steps into the light outside, the cold air feels different, because now he has something that makes the galaxy feel heavier. Obi-Wan sees the crystal and his expression tightens. Not because he thinks it is evil, because he knows the Council will not know what to do with it. Anakin tries to stand tall anyway. He wants this to be simple, like it is for everyone else. It is not. Back at the temple, the first reactions are normal. Congratulations, quiet pride, relief that another youngling made it back from the caves of Ilum. For one moment, Anakin almost feels like he belongs. Then he opens his palm. The room changes. A black Kyber crystal looks wrong in a Jedi hand, not because black equals corruption, but because the order is built on patterns, and this breaks the pattern. Masters lean in. Whispers start. Curiosity becomes concern in real time. And soon, Anakin is standing before the Council with that ink-colored shard sitting between him and the most powerful people in his life. Yoda studies it quietly, turning it between his fingers. Unusual, this is, he says, and even that calm word carries weight. Anakin lifts his chin. I followed the will of the Force, he says. The crystal called to me. Why should I reject it? Obi-Wan stands behind him, silent, and Anakin can feel his tension like heat. The Council debates long into the night. They do not claim a color is destiny, they know better than that. What they argue about is perception, timing, and risk. This boy already carries fear like a second heartbeat, and now the Force has handed him a crystal that looks like a warning to anyone who does not know him. Then Mace Windu says the quiet part that turns the room colder. A black-bladed lightsaber exists in the archives. Not a myth, not a rumor. A real weapon with a flat, dark blade edged in pale light. The darksaber, built long ago by Tara Vizsla, the first Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order. The moment that name lands, the crystal stops being only rare and becomes political. Because Mandalore does not treat symbols like decorations. Mandalore treats them like fuel. So the Council does the most Jedi thing possible. They investigate. Yoda and Mace meditate with the crystal, not to control it, but to understand what it echoes. Visions hit them hard. Coruscant in ruins. The temple burning. Anakin as a beacon in one possibility and as a catastrophe in another. And when they return to themselves, they share one grim agreement. The Force is not handing them one answer. It is handing them a fork. They let Anakin keep the crystal, because taking it would tell him the Force cannot be trusted. And that is how you create rebellion inside a boy who already feels like an outsider. But they change how they raise him. Instead of waiting for his fear to turn into damage, they treat it like the real problem, not a shame, not a flaw, an active hazard that needs management. They give him support, not speeches. A healer checks on him after training, teaching him how to name fear before it becomes rage. Yoda pulls him into quiet meditations that are not punishment, they are breathing room. And Mace Windu takes a direct role in discipline, because if the Council is seeing outcomes where Anakin breaks, then pretending he will not is just arrogance wearing robes. Anakin does not understand any of the strategy, he only feels the shift. Some Jedi watch him like he is fragile, others watch him like he is dangerous. The crystal does not corrupt him, but it changes how the temple looks at him, and that changes how alone he feels. He constructs his lightsaber anyway. The day he ignites it, the room dims. The blade is deep black, its edges shimmering with a pale glow, like light clinging to the boundary of a void. It does not throw brightness across the walls the way other sabers do. It makes the air feel heavier, like a door closing somewhere behind you. It also looks close enough to the darksaber that every historian in the Order suddenly develops a headache. Anakin stares at it, and something inside him settles. This is his blade, his identity, his destiny. But the real change is not aesthetic. A blade like this makes self-deception harder. When Anakin is calm, the weapon feels steady and controlled. When frustration spikes, when fear floods his chest, when anger starts hunting for an outlet, the saber feels sharper in his hands, heavier, louder in his senses, like it is refusing to let him pretend nothing is happening. So Anakin does what he always does when the world gets complicated. He trains, he throws himself into sparring, drills, meditation, anything that gives him a sense of control. Obi-Wan remains his master, and their bond deepens because Obi-Wan treats him like a person who needs guidance, not a prophecy that needs containment. Their training still has laughter in it, teasing that older brother's energy that keeps Anakin human. Mace Windu's sessions are different. They are precise, relentless, and quiet. Every movement must be clean. Every mistake is met with silence. Mace believes praise makes ego, and ego makes cracks. He pushes Anakin harder than anyone else in the temple, not because he hates him, because he refuses to lose the galaxy to the worst version of this boy. The crystal may have chosen you, Mace tells him after Anakin loses his temper in a spar, but that does not make you worthy. Anakin nods, jaw tight, because he is learning restraint the hard way. And then Palpatine notices. Because Palpatine always notices. A rare blade appears in the temple, and suddenly Anakin feels even more like a question mark. Palpatine does not need to force the dark side on him. He just needs to aim Anakin's emotions away from the people who can steady him. So the Chancellor praises him, invites him to talk, calls the black-bladed lightsaber a sign that destiny has finally stopped pretending. He does not push lightning or red robes yet. He pushes something softer and more poisonous. Resentment. He suggests the Council fears Anakin. He suggests they are shaping him like a weapon because they do not know what else to do with him. He suggests they will never trust a boy who carries a blade that looks like night itself. In another timeline, those words become a leash. Here, they become a test Anakin can actually see. Because every time Palpatine's conversations leave him boiling, Anakin feels it. He feels the spike. He feels how easy it would be to build a life around that anger. And that awareness gives him a chance to step back instead of stepping deeper. Then the Clone Wars arrive. Everything turns loud. Everything turns urgent. Anakin becomes a Jedi Knight and a general because the Republic is desperate and the Order is stretched thin. His black blade cuts through battle smoke like a moving shadow. Clones whisper about it, like soldiers always do, turning fear into legend. When Anakin ignites that void-colored saber, morale shifts. Not because the weapon is magic, but because it announces something simple. He is here, and he is not leaving. Inside the Order, the worry never fully disappears. Some masters see the black blade and think of Sith stories they wish they could forget. Others see it and realize the uncomfortable truth. The Jedi do not know how to raise someone like Anakin without either worshipping him or policing him. Both mistakes make him lonely. Loneliness is what predators hunt. And then Padme becomes the center of his nightmares. Anakin dreams of her dying, and the dreams feel like prophecy because Ilum already showed him how real future visions can feel. He wakes up with his heart racing and his thoughts spiraling. He tries late-night training to burn the panic out of his body, but the fear keeps finding him anyway because fear does not care how good your saber form is. This is where Palpatine moves in. He offers the forbidden answer, that death can be cheated, that power can lock the universe into obedience. The difference in this timeline is not that Anakin suddenly becomes wise. The difference is that Anakin has spent years being taught to name fear instead of hiding it. He has had support instead of silence. He has learned that panic is not a prophecy. It is a signal. So when Palpatine hints at dark side solutions, Anakin feels the pull because he is still Anakin, still terrified of losing the person he loves, but he also hears the shape of the trap. He recognizes the way Palpatine keeps nudging him away from Obi-Wan, away from Yoda, away from anyone who could interrupt the story being planted in his head. And for the first time, Anakin does the thing Palpatine has been trying to prevent since Naboo. He tells the truth. He goes to Obi-Wan and admits what has been happening, the dreams, the pressure, the private conversations, the way Palpatine always seems to show up when Anakin is at his weakest. Obi-Wan does not shame him. He does not mock him. He goes still, the way people go still when the puzzle pieces finally lock. Then they go to the council. Yoda listens like he is swallowing grief. Mace listens like a blade being drawn. And when the time comes, when Palpatine finally drops the mask and admits he is Darth Sidious, he expects Anakin to freeze and cling to him. Instead, Anakin walks away. He walks away shaking, but he walks away. Mace Windu does what he does in the true timeline. He moves fast. He takes other masters with him to arrest the Chancellor, because a Sith Lord in the highest seat of the Republic is not a problem you schedule for tomorrow. The fight erupts. The office becomes a storm of red blade, shattered glass, and the Force bending like metal under heat. The masters fall quickly, because Sidious has been hiding behind polite smiles for years, and nobody truly knows what they are walking into until it is already happening. And then Anakin arrives. In canon, he arrives in time to choose wrong. Here, he arrives in time to choose with his eyes open. He sees Mace alone, battered, holding the line, Vapod turning Sidious's aggression back on itself. He sees Palpatine trying to talk while he fights, throwing promises between strikes, saving Padme, rewriting destiny, finally giving Anakin the power he thinks the Jedi denied him. Anakin ignites the black blade. The room feels wrong, like the light itself leans toward the weapon. Palpatine tries the last and oldest Sith move. He tries to make Anakin's fear feel like loyalty. Anakin feels the anger surge because part of him wants to end the uncertainty with one decisive act. He also feels the fear beneath it, the real fear, the one that started on Tatooine and never fully left, the fear that love always ends in loss. And then he does something Anakin Skywalker almost never does. He pauses, he breathes, he chooses, he fights the Sith. Lightning cracks across the room. Anakin catches it on the edge of his saber long enough for Mace to push forward. Palpatine's confidence fractures, because this was never the plan. The Chosen One was supposed to kneel. Instead, the Chosen One stands. Together, they drive Sidious back. The Sith Lord reaches for one more desperate angle, begging, threatening, promising, anything that might turn Anakin into a weapon pointed at the Jedi. It fails. Mace ends it, not as a speech, not as a ceremony, as a final violent moment where the Sith stops being a voice and becomes a silence. Darth Sidious falls, and Order 66 never goes out. The galaxy does not instantly become peaceful, but the trap does. Without Sidious pulling strings, the Clone Wars stop being a machine designed to grind the Jedi into dust. The Separatist leadership fractures. The Republic panics as it realizes how deep the deception went, but panic is not the same as tyranny. It is a crisis that can be rebuilt from. And the Jedi have to face a truth they avoided for too long. Anakin's emotions did not doom him. Their fear of his emotions almost did. Because now it is obvious what was happening. The isolation, the silence, the suspicion, it all made Anakin easier to manipulate. The only reason the manipulation failed here is because Anakin had something the Sith hate: people who actually saw him. The black Kyber crystal becomes a subject of the temple again, not as superstition, as a lesson. Some masters finally admit what they never wanted to say out loud. The crystal did not predict darkness. It demanded honesty. It did not make balance easy. It made pretending impossible. And the Mandalorian echo does not stay quiet. A black-bladed lightsaber is not just a weapon, it is a story. Mandalore remembers Tare Vizsla. Mandalore remembers the Darksaber. Mandalore understands how a symbol can unite and divide at the same time. So when rumors spread that the Jedi's most famous general carries a blade that looks like night with a pale edge, Mandalorian leaders take notice, not because they assume it is the Darksaber, but because they know what symbols do to politics. Duchess Satine Kryze requests a meeting. Not to demand the saber, not to accuse Anakin of stealing history, but to measure the danger of a new legend forming in the middle of a war that has already broken too many worlds. Anakin meets her, and for once he understands something that has nothing to do with combat. Sometimes the heaviest thing you carry is not the weapon. It is what people believe it means. He tells Satine the truth. The Force chose it. He did not go hunting for Mandalorian meaning. Satine studies him, studies the blade, and sees what the Jedi Council struggled to articulate from the start. A black blade does not mean you are Sith. It means you carry a storm. And storms can either tear cities apart or bring rain to a dry world, depending on the hand holding them. That becomes the quiet thesis of Anakin's life in this timeline. He is not saved by becoming less emotional. He is saved by learning how to live with everything he is and still choose the light. Because the truth is simple, a black Kyber crystal does not make darkness inevitable. It only demands you stop lying to yourself. What if Anakin Skywalker had received a black crystal on Ilum? Maybe the Jedi would not have survived by tightening rules and calling it wisdom. Maybe balance would not have come through fear, titles, or control. Maybe it would have come through support, honesty, and a boy finally allowed to admit he was drowning before he sank. Because the color was not just rare. It was a demand. And for Anakin, it might have been the difference between falling as Vader and rising as the Chosen One. And maybe, just maybe, that was the destiny he was meant to have. If you enjoyed this alternative timeline, hit like, subscribe for more Star Wars What If stories, and may the Force be with you.